Welcome, everyone. Welcome back. This is part 6. I kind of promised that this one would be about setting up the starter dungeon, and I'm almost ready to actually kind of get started playing around with this and trying it out. This is for the Ilyara campaign. We have our starting land of Helmtroud, the Grand March. And I think I want to start the characters in Droog Common, which is a somewhat independent, small town, large village kind of deal. It's kind of an outpost out on the edges of the Groton Marsh. And there is, you see this little A? Let me zoom in. So if you see the little pink areas, the pink areas are danger zones. It's like Kenny Loggins. I went to the danger zone. And I have a couple of different ones, but I think that this one has got to be this first one, this lost thing in the marsh. So let's brainstorm some ideas for what it could be. I don't have to brainstorm too far because I already have a couple of ideas. Got a pencil, all right? And we'll open up the little notebook. I realized also that I've kind of been doing. I feel like you just can't half-ass it. I was thinking maybe I'll just do random dungeons, like I'll use the dungeon generator or whatever. And here's what we know about Droog Common, by the way. By the way, this map B corresponds to this map. There is an A, C, and a D map. This one's called the Eastern Reach. The capital is on this map, and I haven't detailed that map out yet, but I'll get to it. We'll get to it. Droog Common is a hamlet. It's got a the Adventurers Guild. It has a popular ruler, and there's something curious about the gods are not worshipped there. There's some and by the way, the gods of Helm or Helmtroud are the Norse variation. And I've got these danger zones kind of worked out well. Here we go. The Groton Marsh. What could there be in the swamp? Let's try some brainstorming. Okay. As you can see on my screen here, I'm up on bing.com, and this is a controversial technique, but it's all it is a technique. I do think that there is a discussion to be had about, you know, how you use AI and whether it's a tool or whether it's doing the work for you. I prefer to think of it as a sort of organizer, brainstorming tool, partner, in the same way that I use fantasy name generators, which I think is also a great tool. But the way to approach it is I need 10 possibilities for a set of ruins in a lost swamp called the Groton Marsh. In ancient times, it was a lizard folk. It was a homeland of the lizardmen, and in recent centuries it has been taken over by a group of Norse-themed medieval folkloric by a medieval folkloric German style kingdom called Helmentraud. The area has a long association with reptiles and there could be ancient, savage, lizard man demigods or their influence. Also, witchery is not uncommon, and there are a group of powerful archwizards that once worked with the Helms. Okay. Now, as you see, what I've done here is the AI hasn't done anything. I've done everything. I came up with all my ideas, right? I give it all the ideas. But I'm asking it for some brainstorming possibilities. And this is just like rolling on a table or something like that. When you get your results back, you're not necessarily going to take the results as is. You're going to let those influence or inspire what you come up with. So let's see what we come up with. You also notice another thing is the way to approach the AI is to talk to it conversationally. So let's see if it'll come up with 10. It might have been that I should have asked for 6 ruins, like maybe give it a little bit easier of a job. But looks like it's got some answers. Okay, let's see what it says. Very slowly. That sounds like a fascinating setting for your adventure. Here are some possible ruins. So, temple dedicated to Sotek. I don't know where Sotek came from. Lizard god of war and serpents. Might be from D&D. You know how it works. It's obviously it goes out and it finds stuff on the web. A library that contains the secrets of the lore of the lizardmen written in stone tablets and scrolls. Stone tablets, possibly. I don't see the lizardmen using scrolls. Library else is I like this idea too. A fortress that was once the stronghold of lizardmen warlord who rebelled against the rule of the Slan mage priests. I don't know what a Slan is, but we're gonna find out. Oh, look, actually it pooped out. Okay, but I like those choices so far. Okay. Okay. So the ancient temple of the lizardmen sounds like a good choice. And I also like the idea of lost lore of the lizard folk being engraved in stone tablets, lost somewhere in the marsh. There could be vast dungeons below, and the influence of both ancient wizards, witches of the fens. I'm just making this up. Rebellious lizard folk natives, dragon cultists, bandits, and others. How would you combine these ideas into a single location? Okay. So cross your fingers doesn't like poop out again, but it's gonna spit out some ideas. The entrance is hidden by a thick layer of vines and mosses. Temple consists of several chambers and corridors. It gives me suggestions: snakes, crocodiles, things like that. I don't know who Sotek is, so I'm gonna have to ask. Now here's the other problem that you'll see with AI, and why I don't recommend AI as being a solution in itself. It's basically given us the whole adventure. If they're they're gonna fight their way to a main chamber where the altar of Sotek is, and then if they win, they get an artifact such as a staff, sword, or necklace imbued with the power of Sotek. It's one and done. I'm thinking vast. I'm thinking 10, maybe 20 levels or something, spiraling down into the Underdark, and being all kinds of different things. So you have to always bring your own spin to these things. Okay, let's come up with a new ancient lizard man pantheon, somewhat modeled on Aztec gods, but with new names. And lizard-like appearances. Can you give me this is a research question, top 6 Aztec or Mayan deities, and then invent a new lizard-like name for them. Like, names have a lot of sibilant consonants and SWS constructions. This would also be like I know we're doing Tunnels and Trolls and not D&D, but like the UNT. So he's giving me some. Oh, very cool. So it's basically it's not doing a whole lot differently. So it gives me the Aztec gods. So instead of Quetzalcoatl, I just changed it to Quetzalcoatl, the scaled serpent. But it's perfect. It does kind of work. Instead of Tlaloc, it's Tlazloc. Tanasi and I don't even never even heard of that one. Tezcatlipoca becomes Tezcatlipoca, the god of shadows and vermin. Chalk becomes Shock. Ixchel becomes Izshel. Okay. I like the names. Please make a table of these 6 deities and also include a rough description of each deity. But remember, they should all be lizards now. For example, Tezcatlipoca should be a what should Tezcatlipoca be? Before, I think the original is like a leopard, right? So we want to have this like should be a dragonoid figure now, wearing a leopard skin cape. Okay, let's see if it can do it. My girlfriend just said leopard gecko. Like, that would be good. Ah, here we go. So, Quetzalcoatl, that's the easiest one, because it's already a serpent. Like, it's a bird, but, Alright, so what did they do with Tlazloc? I don't know. Oh, Tezcatlipoca, dragonoid figure with black scales and leopard skin cape. Shock, a chubby and friendly lizard. That's kind of funny. Ixchel, or Izshel. Dude, I like it all. Okay, so what we do right here, it says edit in Excel. Actually, I'm just going to grab it. Looking good. Copy it. And let's put that in a new document. So I've got a new lizard deities of Iliara. Cool. All right, let's move this on. Okay. Now, there should be another, perhaps later group. Let's say the witches. Let's say the witches of the Fens. And I don't know what the Witches of the Fens are yet. I like the construction of the title, The Witches of the Fens. It just sounds very Roald Dahl. That ends up taking over the Lizard Temple complex and expanding it downwards to a source of primeval magic. Can you describe the place and give it a name? The lizard man name of the swamp is Ayuno. That actually, I made that up. But the Helms call the land Helmtroud, and the swamp has been renamed the Grottenmarsh. Now, at this point, we're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall to see, you know, what can it give us some new ideas that we haven't thought of yet, and we're feeding it all of our own ideas. If you do have a creative partner of some kind where you can kind of bounce ideas around, it's kind of the same thing. The Coven of the Fens. Oh, and it's got some new ideas. The Hall of Bones. Chamber of Secrets. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I don't know if at this point it's forgotten about the lizard folk. Because if I were writing this, I would say, well, the Chambers of Sacrifice was originally used by the lizard folk and the witches have taken it over. Okay, so I think it's given me a lot of cool ideas, but I don't think I'm going to use them as is because I want to make sure that we have both. We want to have both influences going on. But let's brainstorm some names. Some names. I need an original lizard folk name for the temple complex. And I need a name that the witches use. Remember, the lizard name must be a fusion of Aztec and Mayan style words, and the witches should sound pseudo-Germanic. Let's see what it can do. I always kind of like to throw something creative and just see if it comes up with anything that surprises me. Now, it may come up with a name that I just love. I'm just going to keep that name. Zatzelcoatl, that's kind of a cool one. Or it may come up with two things that I can stick together. Like I could just take part A from one and part B from the other. And it looks like it didn't give me many choices. It gave me one each. It likes the fire pit. What if the witches called it the prehistoric place or the ancient place instead? What would that name be? Instead of the fire pit. Yes, they could call it Dars. I don't know. I like okay, I like Altagroove and I like the lizard names. Let's keep those. So Zotzalcoatl. Alright, so we're gonna write those in our book here. With my pencil. This is if you look over here, let's move back to the other cam. Okay, so this is A on the map, and you can see it's A right here. So this is Zotzalcoatl, aka what did they give us? I think we ended up on what is where's the word for pit? Grube. Urzeitgrube. How about Urzeitstadt? I like Urzeitstadt, which is place of the primordial time. The ancient place. For now, we're going to say that this is, like the Temple of Elemental Evil, or the Moat House dungeon. We're going to start with a couple of levels, and, if it ends up being expanded, that's fine. If you don't, I've got several other places to put dungeons. Now, I have different ideas, too. Like this one over here for G is going to be an ancient elven civilization that got wiped out. This one over here is like a tomb. A couple of these are tombs. I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet. This one over here, the Charn Waste, there's something called, I came up with the idea of it. Oh, it's called the Charn Spires. And they were actually like completely destroyed by these archwizards before they rebelled and left the service of the Helms. So there is some kind of destroyed wizards tower over here in Charn Waste. But okay, so Zotzalcoatl and Urzeitstadt. And we won't worry about too many other places right now. For now, asterisk 3-level dungeon. And by 3 levels, we mean 3 levels going down. And, we're going to map them out on graph paper, And this is an interesting thing that we can do. Now, I want to use the location crafter method. I tried doing your standard dungeon crawl method, and I used to love making dungeons, but I find it's a bit tedious, and there's a bit to it I don't like. One of the problems I also have is there's no bestiary for tunnels and trolls. There doesn't need to be, because most monsters in tunnels and trolls have like 5 stats, and the combat stats are like 1 number or 2 numbers. You have your MR, and then you have your AR, which is your armor. So, and every combat stat you get off is derived off of that, unless you have a special ability or a special weakness or something like that. So it's quite simple. And also, if you fight an Uruk in the Charn Waste, it might be a certain MR. But if you fight an Uruk in the Grottenmarsh, it might be a completely different MR, right? It could be a different group. So it's both less work, because the stat blocks are much simpler, but in a way it's more work, because you have to make up each and every creature that's there, and you have to come up with a justification of what it's doing there, and why it all exists. And in AD&D, I unfortunately I've fallen into the habit of just building a wandering monster table and kind of building everything off of that, and I've got to rethink that habit. Okay, so let's actually talk about something called, I did this typical monsters of the realm here, and then I've got a list. Now this list of monsters of the realm actually comes from the game world generator. Let's see, and there's my timeline history. But all right, let's talk about Urzeitstat. We're gonna brainstorm some monsters. Now, once again, I could use the AI, but we're gonna start by just doing it ourselves. There should be lizard men down there, and actually, there should be. Let's do 2 factions. Let's do Jade lizard men and Onyx lizard men. And the Onyx ones are allied with the witches, right? What else could there be? Mutant crocodile, giant lizard, flightless bird, swamp bird. Like, I don't even know what that necessarily means. Oh, and I did some just kind of fooling around. I did create some monsters last night. One of them is most of them ended up being things that would fit in. So Amber Colony. So Amber Colony is a colony of kind of algae or mold, and it attacks. It can attack telekinetically when it gets big enough. Now, you might think it's kind of like yellow mold. It doesn't have the cold attack of yellow mold, but it's similar. A thing called a bone slug. Made that up last night. Something called a corruption worm. It's WRM. I actually rolled it up on using the ooze table of these monster generator tables I have, and it's pretty cool. Oh, and a killer plant called the purple death creeper. I made that up too. Now, what else could we have? We could have bandits. We could have witches. Do we have the witches on here? These would be kind of the low-level ones. I would assume that the witches of the fens would be like kind of high level. But they're apprentices and soldiers for the bandits and the other witches. What else could we have? That could be in there. Oh! I think Frogmen. I mean, that's a classic. Let me think. I want to do something like an od&d, but I don't know. Like, I think od&d is. Well, it would be something like an od&d. Has to be something. Let me think. Well, there's also something like a frog hemoth would be cool too. Frogman, killer frogs. I can just call it a swamp. I want to write swamp behemoth, but I think that's straight out of Newhan. Like that's one of the oh, there could be some undead. Swamp monster, swamp hemoth, swamp. All right, let's do this. How about this? I Need to brainstorm. Hang on. Monster similar to an od&d that lives in the swamp and carrion and lurks in the muck. Maybe the muck is like something like that. Can you give me 6 choices? All right. Let's see what the this thing suggests. And while it's looking at things, let's go back to that list of monsters that it gave me for the area. Bandits, great cats, black bears, brown bears, giant snakes. Giant snakes would be good. Giant beetles. Giant toads. Okay. Okay, here's the ideas it's given me so far. A sledge crawler. A Golgoth. A large... I like this. We're going to do Golgoth. We don't know what it is, but we'll develop it. Giant serpent. And... I just wrote undead over there, so that's fine. Okay. I think this is a good start. Okay, so what you see up here is MS Paint. I've got my dungeon map. I'm actually using this thing called Dungeons in Blue, which I found on DriveThruRPG. There's 3 different geomorphs here. This is one geomorph on the left, and this is one geomorph on the top, and one geomorph here down at the bottom. The only thing I'm kind of lacking is I've made 1 connection or 2 connections from the sort of ancient caves into the temple here, but this outside area does not have any entrances. I'm wondering if there should be. Also, you notice I've got a staircase here. On the one hand, I think maybe I don't have to have that connection. Maybe it's okay to just leave this as the only ways down to this part below. Like, you'd have to find it and look for it. I think that's a good way to do dungeons in general, is to you have both restricted and unrestricted ways to move around the dungeon. Alright, so let's keep this. What we need to do now is add numbering to everything. So let me grab this and Arial Black, sure. That's what we'll go with. So 1. Oh wait, I got a problem. No, come here. 1. How big is it? I don't know if it's big enough to even register. It's too tiny. So I've got to resize this so that my 22-point type should be something I can actually see. I don't need this dungeon. By the way, just as a quick note, I had the thought, and I still might do it, of using dungeon geomorphs, which were an old favorite of mine. This is a later version of the set. I had these when they were just like 5 pages each. This is the combined version of 15 pages. These were just sheets of these crazy maps, like super crazy. And the way it worked is you would cut them up. They gave them to you on cardstock, and you could cut them out, and you could assemble them and reassemble them in different ways. And the Roman numerals would always kind of match up. So you'd cut out like the long piece, area C, and you could match area C up with D and E, or you could cut out F, or you could take E and you could take it and flip it 90 degrees and reassemble it in there and paste it in. And I still might use that for something. I think it's a fun way to go. Let me show you what else I've done here. Well, okay. Using the dungeons in blue, and this is actually 3 dungeons in blue. The originals were this geomorph, and then this geomorph. And what I did was I flipped them around, and I made these two connect by just kind of digging out a passage with MS Paint. And then I combine the images, and then I just put it together. So now all I got to do is key the area. So we go 1. And I like to key it in the order I assume it's going to be explored. So let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it. That might be too much light. Maybe that's not enough light. I think the problem is my Trapper Keeper is very bright and reflective, so I assume they would go 1. They might go to this door. 3, 4, 5. 6, 7. This is like a stage. 8. It's got some pillars. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This is going to be quite a dungeon, huh? 14, 15, 16, 17. That's a secret passage. 18A. 19, 20. Now, if they take the cave side, 21, 22, 23. That looks like a trap marker. 24. It's upside down because I flipped it. 25, 26. This could be something. 27, 28, 29, 30. Let's say it's all one thing here. This great hall is 31, and it's going to be area 32 down here. It's alcove, and then 33, 34, 35. Let's call that 36. That's obviously some kind of magical pool. 37, 38, 39. Several cells here. I'm going to call these 40A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, 41, 42, and 43, 44, and then 45. Okay. So now I've got a keyed dungeon. I just don't know what's in it yet. Well, once you got a key dungeon, you've got a list of encounters. You can just start kind of matching things up to come up with it. And because I'm kind of making this dungeon for myself, I want to add an element of randomness to things so that I can't predict the dungeon myself and just subconsciously walk myself, kind of right to the treasure or whatever. Oh, man, I left the most important room. Let's call that 46. This is obviously the witch's chamber, or the most ancient chamber. Look, there's 4 statues in it, so let's go 46. A, B, C, and D. Gotta be something cool in there. And maybe, just maybe, the way we approach this is we leave it blank and we interpret it as we go. Like maybe we set up an encounter for area 1, and then we come into, we figure out what area 5 is. It looks like they've got some arrow slits and they could be firing arrows at us from there. So we'd have to like break into this door here or something, so you could kind of approach it like that. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. All right, let's give it a shot.